I had always carried the image that before the railways, our forests were abundant, well managed by local communities, and under no serious threat of overexploitation. Until I came across a passage from the Mysore Gazetteer that made me doubt some of my preconceived notions of Indian environmental history. The third, and by no means the least harmful, was the practice of iron smelting, furnaces for which were allowed to spring up all over the country. The wasteful methods employed led to an enormous consumption of fuel and a corresponding denudation of the jungles in the Maidan and the regions bordering on the Malnad abounding in iron ore. The late General Dobbs, then Superintendent of the Tumkur district, thus graphically describes the damages wrought to tree vegetation by iron smelters. The district generally is very bare of trees. The jungles were, however, extensive when I first assumed charge in 1835, but these are disappearing fast under the axe of the iron and steel manufacturers. When I first visited the beautiful range of hills running between Chiknaikanahalli and Hagalwadi, they were clothed in trees from top to bottom. Not a tree now remains except a few unfit for burning. In the immediate neighborhood of Tumkur, where 3/4 of the wooding has disappeared, I stopped the progress of destruction by prohibiting iron forges altogether. The decrease of rain amongst the hills referred to has been very marked. No one who has not witnessed the process can conceive the destruction made by these forges. Even greater ruin was caused in the Chittaldur district from the same cause. Almost barren waste has taken the place of former wooded tracts, and that too in a district with but scanty rainfall.
बनाना recording starting
I couldn't believe this. Iron smelting and deforestation. I had never imagined that ancient and medieval industry could have caused significant environmental damage, let alone destruction. And here we have an official report in black and white telling us how iron smelting denuded the forests of the Maidan. The Maidan is not some small area. It encompasses vast portions of the Deccan Plateau. And this supposedly happened as early as the mid-1800s. Dobbs had mentioned something very pertinent. Unless you have actually witnessed the process of iron manufacture, it is difficult to conceive the destruction made by these forges. I, for one, found this very hard to believe. Was iron and steel smelting really that significant in a medieval economy? Significant enough to denude entire forests? How could I convince myself? I had an idea. While working on an earlier project, I had come across the work of Francis Buchanan. Buchanan had reported several iron smelting sites in Tumkur and Chitradurga districts during his journey of 1800, the same region referred to in the Gazetteer. Could we find these sites, and would they reveal something that could convince me of Dobbs's report? With the help of local blacksmiths, we were able to locate several sites where iron smelting was carried out.
Yes, sir. All muse. But ide muse ne idrallene. But ಈ ತರ muse ಮಾಡಿ ಇದರಲ್ಲೇ ಕರೆಕ್ಟ್.
Debris of slag, pottery pipes and crucibles lay strewn all across the plots.
ಹಾಕಿರೋದು ಎಲ್ಲ ಗುಡ್ಡೆ ಹಾಕಿರೋದು.
ಪಟ್ಕೆ ತಗೊಂಡ್ ಗುಡ್ಸೋದು
ಎಲ್ಲ ಲಾಕ್
ಲಾಟ್ ಹಾಕೋದು. ಏನ್ ಮಾಡೋಣ ಹೊಟ್ಟೆ ತುಂಬ
ಗುಡ್ಡೆ ಹೊಡಿಯುವಾಗ ತೆರಳುತ್ತೆಲ್ಲ ನೋಡಿ ಆ ತರ ಎಲ್ಲ ಗುಡ್ಡೆ ಹಾಕ್ತಾರೆ.
Villagers say that even after years of plowing, the debris keeps surfacing. Some of it has been collected in heaps. The work sites were not small. They ranged from half an acre to 8 acres.
ನೋಡಿ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಐತೆ ನೋಡಿ ತೂತ ಎಲ್ಲ ಹೋಗೈತೆ ನೋಡಿ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಎಲ್ಲ ರಸ ಬಿಡ್ತಿದ್ರಂತೆ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಇಳ್ಕೊಂತಿದ್ದು ಇಲ್ಲಿ ನೋಡಿ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಐತೆ ನೋಡು ದಿಮ್ಮಿ ಇದ್ವಂಸ ಅವಾಗ ಇದರಿಂದ ನೋಡಿ ತೂತ ಐತೆ ನೋಡಿ ನೋಡಿ ಇಂಥವೇ ಸಾವಿರ ಹಾಯ್ಕೊಂಡು ಹೋಗ್ತೀವಿ ತಬ್ಲಕ್ಕೆ ಹಾಯ್ಕೊಂಡು ಹೋಗ್ತೀವಿ.
The soil had turned black from the heat generated while smelting.
ಎಷ್ಟು ಪವರ್ಫುಲ್ ಇದೆ ಅಂತ ಸರ್ ಇದು. ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಮುಟ್ಟಿದ್ರೆ ಸಾಕು ಸಿಡಿತೈತೆ, ಅಷ್ಟು ಪವರ್ ಐತೆ.
ಮೊದಲಿಗೆ ಕಬ್ಬಿಣ ಕಾರ್ಖಾನೆ ನಡೀತಿತ್ತು ಅಂತ ಅದು ಕಬ್ಬಿಣ ಪಿತ್ತ ಅಂತ ಇದೆ. ಯಾವ ಕಾಲದಾಗೆ ಕಬ್ಬಿಣ ಕಾರ್ಖಾನೆ ನಡೀತಿತ್ತು ಅಂತಿದ್ರು. ಅದು ಕಬ್ಬಿಣ ಕರ್ಸಿದ್ ಪಿತ್ತ ಅಂತಿದ್ರು.
ಎಷ್ಟು ವರ್ಷದ ಹಿಂದೆ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಕಬ್ಬಿಣದ ಕಾರ್ಖಾನೆ ಇತ್ತು? ಎಷ್ಟು ವರ್ಷದ ಹಿಂದೆ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಕಬ್ಬಿಣದ ಕೆಲಸ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ರು?
ಇದ್ಲು ಅದ್ರ ಒಳಗಡೆ ಇದೆ ನೋಡಿ ಸರ್. ಇದು ಹೊಡೆಯೋಣ ಇನ್ನೂ ಸರಿ.
ಎಷ್ಟು ವರ್ಷ ಆಯ್ತು ಕಾರ್ಖಾನೆ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಇದ್ದಿದ್ದು?
ನನಗೆ ಗೊತ್ತಲ್ಲ ನಮ್ಮ ಅಜ್ಜರಿಗೂ ಗೊತ್ತಿಲ್ಲ, ನಮ್ಗೆ ಗೊತ್ತ. ಯಾವ ಕಾಲದಾಗ ಏನ್ ಸಮೇದು
ಇದು ಒಂಥರ ಈಗ ಆಲ್ರೆಡಿ ನಾವು ಕಬ್ಬನ ಏನಾರ ಮಾಡಕ್ ತಗೊಂಡೋಗ್ತೀವಿ ಅಣಿತಾರಲ್ಲ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ತಗೊಂಡೋದಾಗ ಈ ತರ ಇದನ್ನ ಭತ್ತದ ತೌಡ್ ಹಾಕ್ಬಿಟ್ಟು ಇದು ಮಾಡಿದಾಗ ಈ ತರ ಬರ್ತಾರ. ಈ ತರ ಬರುತ್ತೆ. ಅದು ಇದು ಕಂಬಾರೋಲ ಅಂತಾನೆ ಇದಕ್ಕೆ ಒಂಥರ ನೇಮ್ ಇದೆ. ಅದು ಯಾವ ತರ ಇದು ಕಂಬಾರೋಲ ಅಂದ್ಮೇಲೆ ಏನಾರು ಒಂದಲ್ಲಿ ಇರ್ಲೇಬೇಕಲ್ಲ ಅದಕ್ಕೆ.
This extends to a depth of 5 feet, and at one village, people say that it goes down even more.
30 feet.
30 feet.
So I can hold this way. How long?
The soil of neighboring plots was brown, not black like the smelting sites.
Battery.
Finished. So fast.
Battery goes very fast in this audio.
Our brief survey convinced me that iron and steel smelting was serious business. It was widespread and carried out at a fairly large scale in medieval India. Tons and tons of it was probably produced. But for what?
Can we get a detachable battery?
It may seem obvious, but think about it. Can we have settled agriculture without iron? How do you clear the forests and plough the land? We speak of legendary battles, but never give a thought to the iron and steel needed for horseshoes, swords, armor, and cannons. Iron and steel smelting satisfied a huge demand, not only of the village but even international markets. I had always imagined a peasant economy as primarily agricultural, with an artisanal craftwork kind of industry. I had never imagined hundreds of iron and steel smelting units dotted the entire landscape of the region. But what had iron and steel smelting got to do with forests? The passage in the Gazetteer mentions clearing of the forest for fuel, not like what happens today for mining the ore. But what was this fuel? Was firewood used to smelt iron and steel? Not quite, but close. Buchanan had actually given us a hint. Charcoal.
ಅದು ಇನ್ನೊಂದು ಅವಾಗ ಇದು ಇಲ್ದಿದ್ರು ಬೇರೆ ಮರಗಳು ಅದೇ ಫಾರೆಸ್ಟ್ನಲ್ಲಿ ಅದ್ರ ತಂದು ಮಾರಿ ಇದು ಮಾಡಿ ಕಳಿಸಿದ್ದಾರೆ ಸರ್ ಹಿಂದೆ.
Though General Dobbs says there were no trees remaining in this region, we found that charcoal is still made in these parts. We visited charcoal makers near Hiriyur in Chitradurga district, and only then did I realize how much wood it takes to make charcoal.
ಇದೇ ಕೆಲಸ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ ಹೆಚ್ಚು ಒಂದು ಕೂಲರೆಲ್ಲ ಸೇರಿ ಒಂದು 50 ಜನ ಇಲ್ಲ. ಒಂದು ಇಲ್ಲೇ ಎರಡು ಅಂದರೆ ಸುಮಾರು ಒಂದು ನಮ್ಮ ತಾಲೂಕಿಂದ ಏನಿಲ್ಲ ಅಂತಂದ್ರು ಡೈಲಿ ಒಂದು 4 ಗಾಡಿ ಲೋಡ್ ಆಗ್ತದೆ ಸರ್. 4 ಗಾಡಿಗೆ ಅಂದ್ರೆ 40 ಟನ್. 40 ಜಾಸ್ತಿನೇ ಬರುತ್ತೆ. ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಬರುತ್ತಾ? 48 ಟನ್. 48 ಟನ್ ಅಂದರೆ ತಿಂಗಳಿಗೆ 30 ದಿವಸಕ್ಕೆ 48 ಟನ್ನು ಚಾರ್ಕೋಲ್. ಅಲ್ಲ ಇರಲಿ ತಾಲೂಕಿನಾಗೆ ಅಂದರೆ ಯಾಕೆಂದರೆ ಲೆಕ್ಕ ಸಿಗೋದು ಕಷ್ಟ. ಜಮೀನಿರೋರು ಕೆಲವರು ಇದನ್ನು ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ, ಜಮೀನು ಇಲ್ದಾರು ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ. ಒಂದು 3000ದಿಂದ 4000ವರೆಗೂ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ ಜನ. 3000ದಿಂದ 4000 ಜನ ಈ ಕೆಲಸ ತಾಲೂಕು ಮಾಡಿದಾಗ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ.
To make a kilo of charcoal needs more than 7 kilos of wet wood. And Dobbs wasn't wrong after all, because today charcoal is made here not from bamboo or trees, but from Prosopis juliflora, an exotic weed that grows in almost deserted landscapes. Iron and steel smelting, in fact, traditional smelting of any metal, requires huge quantities of charcoal made from wood. Smelting, after all, is about melting and reducing the ore. Impurities are separated from molten metal, and at the same time, the charcoal reduces the oxides from the ore, giving us pure metal. I made some estimates from Buchanan's reports as to how much charcoal it took to manufacture iron and steel. To smelt a kilo of iron requires up to 50 kilos of wet wood, and steel needs up to 100 kilos of wet wood. Think about it. To produce a small block of steel might need an entire 3 years fuel, and to produce 15 tons a day would require wood from a 10 square kilometer area of forest every year. Charcoal is considered as one of the best fuels for smelting of metals. It's clean, it contains no sulfur. That's why our goldsmiths use only charcoal even today. Buchanan tells us that in Yelladekere, iron smelting had ceased 60 years before he was there. That was because of a shortage of fuel. The overuse of forest resources for iron smelting may well have commenced in the 18th century.
नहीं
I never ever thought that charcoal was so important in environmental history.
10 ग्लास जलता वैसा डाले तो चूल्हे में डाले तो जलता बोलना सुनो
कितना टाइम चलेगा
जलता है 5-10 ग्लास जलता
10
वैसा बल्ला का डालते ना एक ही नहीं डालते ना वैसा ज्यादा घंटा एक जलना में 10 ग्लास जलता एक ऐसा आइटम है तो 10 ग्लास जलता
तो कौन सा लेते लेक वो डाले तो अंदर कम से कम अब यता लिए तो एक घर में आराम से खाने पका सकते
3-4 और जलता
हाँ जल सकता
आफ्टर वाटर still so hot.
पूरा लाल हो जाता है चूल्हे में डाल लेते फुल लाल हो जाता जल्दी ड्राई होता नहीं
ಈ ತರ ಹೊಗೆ ಎಲ್ಲ ಓಡಲ್ಲ ಅವಾಗ
ಹೊಗೆ ಬರಲ್ಲ ಅದೇ
ಹೊಗೆನೇ ಬರಲ್ಲ
ಧುವಾಂ खेलता नहीं
ಬೆಂಕಿ ಬರ್ತದೆ ಅಷ್ಟೇ ಹೊಗೆ ಬರಲ್ಲ ಅದು but it says the smoke does not come when you put it in the oven, you know. It's clean flame.
It's clean ना
It's clean flame.
उसमें सब वो जो भी है पेड़ में सब जल जाता ना वो प्योर
fever
A little investigation revealed that there was actually nothing so shocking about these findings. The forests of many a nation had faced a similar problem from medieval iron and steel smelting. European forests, as large as the Amazon, were decimated by smelters. From North America to Scandinavia, traditional iron smelting is acknowledged to have scalped the forest for charcoal. Even in Africa, the effects of iron smelting on forests has been acknowledged. A German forester reported that only 1.5% of the forests in the Bassa region of Togo remained intact at the turn of the 19th century, while the rest was converted to savanna. But what surprised me is why this fact had never been given much importance in Indian ecological history, although the advances in and extent of iron and steel smelting in India is widely known.
ಈಗ ಈ ಕಬ್ಬಿಣದ ಕೆಲಸ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರಲ್ಲ ಎಷ್ಟು ವರ್ಷದಿಂದ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಂಡ್ ಬಂದಿರುವಂತ ಏನಂತ ಗೊತ್ತಾ?
ಹೇಳ್ಬೇಕಂತಂದ್ರೆ ಇದು ರೈತರು ಯಾವಾಗ ರೈತರು ಕೆಲಸ ಯಾವಾಗ ಸ್ಟಾರ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರ ರೈತರಿಗೆ ಕಮ್ಮಾರು ಬೇಕೇ ಬೇಕು ಸ್ವಾಮಿ. ಅವನಿಂದಲೂ ಇದೆ ನಮ್ಮ ತಾತ ನಾವು ಹುಟ್ಟಿರೇ ಕಬ್ಬಿಣದ ಸ್ವಾಮಿ. ನಾವು ನಮ್ಮ ನಂತರ ಕಮ್ಮಾರ ನಾವು ಹುಟ್ಟಿರೇ ಕಬ್ಬಿಣದ
ರೈತರು ಮತ್ತೆ ಕಮ್ಮಾರ ಜೊತೆಗೆ
ಇರಬೇಕು ಅವ್ರಿಗೆ ಬೇಕೇ ಬೇಕು ನಾವು. ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಅದು ಪುರಾತನ ಕಾಲದಿಂದಲೂ ಬಂದಿದೆ. ಯಾವಾಗ ರೈತರು ಇದು ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ ಅವಾಗಿಂದಲೂ ಬಂದಿದೆ. ಯಾವ
1000 ವರ್ಷಕ್ಕಿಂತ ಮುಂಚೆನೇ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ ಕಮ್ಮಾರ ಕೆಲಸ.
ಇದು ರೈತರು ಯಾವಾಗ ಇದನ್ನ ಬೆಳೆ ಇಡಕ್ಕೆ ಸ್ಟಾರ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ ಅವತ್ತಿಗೂ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ.
3000 years
3000 ವರ್ಷ
ಮಾಡಿರ್ಬೇಕು. ಯಾಕಂದ್ರೆ ಇತಿಹಾಸದಲ್ಲಿ ರೈತರು ಯಾವಾಗ ಬೆಳೆ ಇಡಕ್ಕೆ ಹೊಂದ್ಕೊಂಡ್ರ
ರೈತರಿಗಿಂತ ಮುಂಚೆ ಬಂದಿದ್ದು ಕಮ್ಮಾರ
ಬೇಕಲ್ಲ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಡಕ್ಕೆ.
I felt as if I had unfairly singled out the traditional blacksmith and charcoal maker as destroyers of forests, but they were only doing what society needed them to. Rather, quite contrary to accusing them, I feel that the importance of iron making is overlooked. We recognize the role of agriculture and the farmer, but often forget that of industry in the past. And the landscapes I painted of a pre-railways past may well not be as green as I had imagined.